Well, we're living in a society that has no interest in you finding what is unique, although they have a nice smokescreen to pretend that they're doing that. That's all this chic, politically correct stuff to make you feel, oh no, we're more independent than we've ever been. You can buy 500 different colors of Ferrari. There's 1,000,001 different kinds of coffee places, you see. Oh, you have more diversity than ever. This is mostly a media, I have a whole thing on that, the media memes, the propaganda that comes through the media. But keeping in line with what we've been talking about, is that the starting process in all of this is the process of a single human being asking themselves, what is it really that makes me unique? And then I have a subdivision of that, which I went into my Irish Origins DVD. And that is, I know that that's difficult and you probably won't get very far because you might misunderstand what I'm saying. You can't come upon selfhood directly. This thing is almost like a sort of a hall of mirrors in a way. There's a lot of built-in, it's like some sort of Indiana Jones underground labyrinth thing, It's not that easy. There are tricks, and ciphers and things to crack. I'm speaking psychologically. But there is one route to it, and that is to discover what is all that is not the self. And that is apophatic learning. They call it deconstructive, or apophatic processes. Not too familiar in the West. The Germans are pretty good at it because they have a whole, philosophical tradition in this. But in general daily life, this is a bit difficult. The Sherlock Holmes books, there are things in our culture that have gone into this, and there is certain principles of this. People think, oh, you're just talking science. No, there's a big difference, right? This is a psychological model in which you analyze and you think about and you discover all the things that are not the self. There's a teacher called J. Krishnamurti who said, until the false is seen as the false, the truth is not. That's exactly what he was talking about. And there's other models of this as well. And that's what my work is all about, is to try to help people to learn, not to teach them anything, but to help them to learn this process of deconstructive observation. Discover what is false. And that means socially, economically, in all aspects of life, including psychology and the self. That's why my work covers a lot of ground. If you manage to do that, then you're actually cleaning away the briars that stand in the way of the path to this revelation. But that revelation will be an independent one that's done in the privacy of oneself. Discovering the self can't be done in any form of collectivized way. You can't do it in ashrams. You can't do it in churches. You can't do it in think tanks, and you can't do it in round table meetings. It's absolutely a personal, private thing. In fact, you can't do it in families, and even so, you can't do it even in relationships. People have to think about this deeply. You only do it in relationship with yourself. Now, we have the other side. What I've been saying hopefully will help people understand the nature of the architects of control. It'll give them a forensic profile of the architects of control, because they're hell-bent to make sure that that never happens. So almost everything they do, including wars, planes hitting buildings, economic meltdowns, black presidents, and God knows what else you could mention, the whole shebang, is actually designed to continue building the wall between you and selfhood. We don't see that because it's all divided in space and time and all looks mighty, attractive outside. For instance, I've spoken many times about this fact that the rhetoric that politicians use, and I can use specific examples of Al Gore with his whole climate concepts, and the very rhetoric that he uses subtextually, underneath all that talk about global warming, etc., is actually occult in nature. It actually has to do with the psyche of man that is heating up. It's a different kind of temperature and also temperament that he's talking about. But these are the magi, these are the clever Pied Pipers who get on the world stage as what's called the animus, or the male, again, expert. Everybody gathers around them listening to this bogus stuff, but it's tried and true for centuries, you see. So they wave their magic wands, the media helps them to get on the world stage, and then they use this surrogate language. They use this very clever talismanic words, and what it's doing is it's exercising people's inner angst. Because Big Brother has known for a long time, and especially now, that people are falling apart psychologically. And the reasons are because they're not doing their inner work, their soul work or shadow work. Big Brother knows this. It knows it's one of these, liabilities that come with control, is that the hive might start falling apart. At that point when the hive looks like it's disintegrating, or people can't put up with this tyranny anymore, this tyranny without tears, other elements come in to sort of break it down. They are aware of this, they know it. And therefore they need to then glue and galvanize everybody back. When you really deeply study these Bertrand Russell school types, these Orwellian types, you will see from their own works that they do this and that they're very concerned about it. Again, the beginner will find this very hard to believe, but that's neither here nor there. Their actual works show you. They even call it a technocracy of power. And they have many agents doing this. So when you see these people on TV, the Brzezinskis, the Bushes, the Obamas, and all this circus, try to get the pattern recognition to discover what's really happening on a psychological level through the colors they use, through the set designs they use, through the rhetoric that they use. This is as old as Greece. It's as old as Babylon. The rhetoric, the sophistry, the pathos. You know, how they manipulate words and control you. Why? Because they understand that, you know, they want a slavery, but they don't want a psychotic on their hands. And many people do become psychotic. They fall through and they're no longer considered, you know, worthy, so that we've got institutions that sort of take care of them. Some sort of hideous Pink Floyd situation where you become so insane, you know, then they have you as a, they lock you up. And unfortunately, people have to go through this hideous experience. In order to continue the divorce from people's psyche is many of the things that these people do. They themselves are divorced from their self. That's why they love hierarchy. I've gone into this in great detail in other works. That their own hierarchies, these Illuminati types, these Masonics, they love the symbol of the pyramid, they love this hive mentality because they themselves are psychically, toxically, you know, broken. And they depend entirely on this brotherhood concept. Very anti-feminine, anti-natural aspect of life. And they would seek to impose this. And then when man feels insecure, he does likewise. As I said, he identifies with these leaders. He's not only being glued together, he's willing to get up in line because he's feeling the inner existential angst. So he then lends himself. He starts getting in line. He becomes dependent on the handrails that's provided by these establishments. So when you see trouble in the world, it goes along with the rise of evangelism or the return of a fundamentalist religion, etc. You see, or we have the Islamic fundamentalism. It's exactly the same thing. It's just displaced to another country. But it's exactly the same thing. The fear that has people galvanized back, and God knows what's next. There'll always be something to bring people back to the circus, the Roman circus, you see, to keep people edified and entertained, as Aldous Huxley called it, the bread and circuses. And so this is, you know, again, something that really has to be investigated. But I have a little bit of a problem with those who are investigating it, because in my eyes, they always leave consciousness at the door. They don't factor that in, you know, as much as I'm wont to do. Yeah, that's a hugely important question, because we have to look to the future and wonder what's going to happen if we see this happening now, the state of decay. Can it change, you know, for the positive? It will change for the positive if consciousness is brought into the factor, is factored in. Then I'm very optimistic. If consciousness is left out of the equation and we only try to address these problems politically, sociologically, ecologically, militaristically, and all of these other idioms that we're familiar to use, and even in a superficial psychological way, which is almost the same thing as a New Age way, this has no value. In fact, it may play right into the hands of the tiger. Because remember, you can be chased by a whale or a shark and swallowed because it's chasing you, or it could be standing stock still in the water and you swim into its jaws of your own volition. You're still eating. You can be waiting for the tiger to lead you out of the jungle. Probably not a good thing to do, but we might end up doing that. So a lot of the things that look like solutions today, I have very little faith in and part of, because, you know, I'm, you know, worried about it. But a healthy, true existentialist return to philosophical and psychological concepts, which is not very difficult. There's all, you know, given a stigma. It's actually very simple, very basic. And the discovery that you are a unique person with a unique purpose to be here, and tuning back into that, and a realization of the power of your own selfhood, dividing yourself from the collective as much as you possibly can through your creations and your music and your attitude. Realizing that you must do this, as I said, apophatic, get in touch with that type of learning, which is learn to see what is true by, let me put it this way, there's a Conan Doyle statement in which he said, when you have excluded the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. See the false as the false, and then the truth will make itself appearance to you. It's a cleaning away. It's like a forensic cleansing process. And it's a beautiful process once you start getting into it. Some people have a natural aptitude for it. They usually become detectives and so on and forth. And that's what I'm basically asking people to do, is to become a detective, sort of a Hercule Poirot, if you will, of consciousness. This will help people no end, because there's no point asking somebody to do something a little bit different if they don't feel a sense of natural empowerment from doing it. I recommend these procedures because there's an instant empowerment from it.